Hi, my name's Carmen. I'm alcoholic. Sure, no, this doesn't get any easier. The last time I shared at this meeting was when I celebrated my 1 year, and I remember leaving that meeting thinking, okay, at about 5 years sober, I'll hopefully be married, I'll have my own place, and I'll be clear of all my debts. None of those things have happened. But what I do have today is so much more than that. It's not to say that I don't want those things, but what I have internally is absolutely incredible. And I think what I've learned in this kind of sharing now is that God's plan for me is so different from what I want, you know what I mean, or what I think is right for me, because it's just kind of, my whole journey is just to being about, getting out the way and letting God do what's needed for me. Kind of when I read that reading this morning too, it all just made sense in terms of I can honestly sit here today and say I have no regrets about my past, where for most of my life and going into treatment, I really was a victim of life, and I hated my past, and I just could not imagine being able to say I don't regret my past, and I think that's one of the huge things that I do have today. So and I just wanted to thank Don for cheering for me. Don, obviously, I met when I went into treatment, and he was the person that introduced me to God, which I think is huge for me. He kept it very simple, and we then worked together for a number of years, and have since become, become very, very good friends. He's one of my best friends today. So, and I think that's the beauty of AA is, I would never have thought I would be friends with a 74-year-old, 75-year-old man. Really, there's no ways, but that's what AA does. It brings people into your lives that become very, very close. So yeah, I was born in Tasmania in Australia 44 years ago, and my mom is alcoholic. She's actually here today. She's almost 25 years sober. My dad was Australian, and he passed away when he was 29, so I was 18 months. And so obviously I don't know my dad at all, and it is something that kind of worries me from time to time. It's that's my blood, and I really do wish I knew him more. But my mom then married my stepdad, who I do believe is alcoholic, and so we kind of grew up. My brother and I've got a brother who's 5 years younger than me. He's very normal. He did everything right. Went to varsity, got married, 2 kids, not an alcoholic or an addict, but has lived quite a boring life, I think, compared to me, but yeah, him and I are very, very close. And so yeah, my mom married my stepdad, and I think the one thing when I share now is I actually feel quite guilty when I share about my past, because like I said earlier, for many years I sat in that stuff and I like to be a victim and I used it. But today I sit here and I feel guilty, because that is not the person I am today. It's not what I sit with anymore. I have made amends with my parents. I have good relationships with them, and I certainly don't hold them accountable for anything. But I need to share it, because the reality is it is what it is. So yeah, I did grow up in a very dysfunctional home with two alcoholics, where obviously drinking was a priority, and my brother and I were not priorities. And so it was very much, kind of getting on with my own thing. And I always, and I know today that it's the alcoholism, is that I grew up feeling very alone, very unhappy, very isolated, very, very much always on the outside looking in, and not really understanding what life was all about. But always putting on a mask from a very young age that I'm okay and I'm happy and I've got my stuff together. And pretty much throughout my childhood and adulthood, people thought I was extremely confident and very popular, and I was really had this all together, and I was successful in many areas, so it was a huge cover-up, but inside I never felt okay. So yeah, my dad and I had a very volatile relationship. When he drank, he became very violent. He'd beat me up, and I'd have to keep secrets, because he would say to me, "Don't tell your mother." So we would have a violent session, and I'd wake up in the morning and he'd be sober, and it would be okay, everything's back to normal, and it was very confusing for me. We did. We had a very volatile relationship. He was very abusive to me, and I also So I learned to keep secrets from a very young age. I also I had sexual abuse from the age of 5 to about the age of 11 by a family member, and that again kept me sick, and I kept secrets, and I became very manipulative and secretive. I developed anorexia at the age of 15, which I know today was already my alcoholism kicking in. You know, I was very dishonest, very secretive, again, all about the controlling and that type of thing, and again, putting my parents through a lot of heartache, especially my mom. I was very good at sports as a kid, and I traveled quite a lot with sports, and that's where my dad was really good. He was a really good support system and very motivating. But because of the anorexia, my tennis I got to quite a good level, and then it's obviously stopped because you can't compete when you are not eating and weighing whatever I was weighing. So yeah, went through my schooling life, and that's pretty much in a fog, just doing what I needed to do. Started to have relationships from a very young age. At the age of like 17, I always had a boyfriend, and I always attracted the really sick ones, and the really good looking but no personality type thing. And yeah, that was pretty much my pattern. I studied for a while. I met a guy when I was, I think, 20. We went overseas together for 2 years, and I backpacked around Europe and traveled. Came back, ended that relationship, and then met my ex-husband. I was 24 and he was 40. And again, this was just how crazy I was, because I never wanted children, because I didn't want that full-time responsibility. And I married a man 16 years older than me with 3 children, which is insane. And I didn't love him. I was never in love with him. I don't think I've ever been in love with a man. I've never had that real level of intimacy and being in love. I've always liked him, but I've never been in love. I'm yet to experience that. So we got married, and up to that point, I'd never used any substance whatsoever. In fact, I was quite judgmental against people who drank or used drugs, and I thought to myself, if I just stay away from the alcohol, because I didn't want to be like my parents, I'll be okay. I just need to stay away from the substance. So I did. I stayed away from alcohol. There was huge issues in my marriage in terms of intimacy, because for me, sex was a very scary thing. I hated sex, and it became so when I got into a relationship with a guy and the sex came, which it does, I used to bail, but you can't bail when you're married. So sex became a huge problem, and obviously it was affecting our marriage. And I then told my husband what had happened, but I was very brief about it, and he said to me, well, maybe you need to start going and seeing somebody and dealing with the abuse. So I did. I started to go to a number of therapists and psychologists, and I just actually couldn't talk about it. I used to sit in the consulting rooms and just sit there. Go, I've dealt with it, it's fine, it happened, I'm over it, Obviously I hadn't even touched the surface, but what has started to happen as a result of going for therapy was I started to have very bad rage outbursts, and behavior started to take place, which was a lot of panic attacks, a lot of anxiety, a lot of what I thought was depression. So I got referred to a psychiatrist, and who started to give me sleeping tablets and antidepressants, and very quickly that's when my disease started to take place, where I was very quickly using far more than I needed to use. A normal person uses what's on the script. I was using far more than that. And I'm going to go through the using stuff very quickly, because I don't think it's really that important, but it's good for people to relate. So yeah, started to use a lot more than I needed to. I started to doctor hop, psychiatrist hop. I was going to emergency outpatients in hospitals for pethidine and morphine, and they started to get my number. So I was stopped everywhere I went, because people started to see what I was doing. I would go to really dodgy pharmacies. As long as I had cash, they would give me what I wanted. So I got into this pattern of taking huge amounts of painkillers, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, sleeping tablets, and anything that I could basically get my hands on. And I think what I always like to share is that this is an AA meeting, and I don't talk about alcohol because I never drank alcohol. But I think what I've learned is that I suffer from alcoholism. You know, it's not about, for me, the substance. At the end of the day, my behavior is alcoholic. So I have been to some AA meetings where people say to me, you shouldn't be here because you didn't drink. And I'm like, anyway, I'm very much alcoholic. So just to clear that you will not hear about alcohol in my share. So what started to happen is I started to go to psychiatric wards because that's what I thought was the solution, because I was labeled with bipolar and depression and personality disorder. But bearing in mind that I used to manipulate psychiatrists, I used to go onto Google and search for the drugs that I wanted and look at the symptoms and then go to the psychiatrist and tell the psychiatrist about my symptoms so that I could get what I wanted. And so in and out of psychiatric wards became my second home. I stopped working because I couldn't work anymore, stopped driving, and pretty much, so in all of that, the family was going, friends were going, because I would cancel last minute to weddings and baby showers and friends, and I wasn't able to be around friends anymore who had children because I would babysit for them and be passed out with pills all over the floor. So family started to go. I went to my brother's wedding in, God, I can't remember, I think it was 2008 or whatever, and overdosed and ended up in hospital. And my brother and my father walked out of that hospital and said, that's it, we've had enough, no more of this. And then what started to happen is I started to spend a lot of time at home, purely, literally just sleeping. I would just use and sleep every day. Caleb always makes a comment about how I used to work for Sealy Posturepedic because I used to just, test their mattresses out because I was the perfect client. And so literally slept for about 2 years before I went into treatment. Just that's all I did. A lot of blackouts, a lot of hallucinations. I wouldn't open the door, I wouldn't open post, I wouldn't answer the telephone. My mom was pretty much the only person that I would allow to come visit me. And I'll never forget the one day she said to me, and when I was clean and sober, she said to me, I came to visit you, and you used to sit in the lounge with a blanket over your head, with the curtains closed and the doors closed, and I'd say to you, can we just open some curtains? And you'd say to me, no, Mom, but then those people are going to come and get us, because I was in hallucinations and I was having blackouts. And yeah, I think for a mother to see that is not okay. So that pretty much went on, and my husband was a huge enabler, unfortunately. He really didn't know how to help me. I was very secretive about my using, ran up a lot of debt, credit cards, opened accounts at pharmacies. So yeah, pretty much everybody was gone. Eventually, my mom, because she was in the program, she stopped helping me. She was the last one, pretty much, and said to me, until you make that phone call for help, then I'm out of here, And so yeah, that went on for a while, and I think it was on the 15th of November 2009 where I woke up and I couldn't feel my legs from my waist down, and I just said, God, I don't know who you are, I don't know where you are, but I just want this to stop. I can't do it anymore. And what I'd done is I'd gone to a public prosecutor, because I had tracked this guy down that had abused me. He lived in Joburg, and I wanted revenge. I went to a prosecutor, I went and I laid a charge, and obviously I was 5. There was no chance of me getting any sort of revenge, and that fueled my using. And so yeah, I went into treatment. I phoned my mom and I said to her, I'll go to that goddamn rehab, but I'm only going for a week because I have depression. I'm not like you, okay? So yeah, I phoned my husband and he took me in, and I'll never forget, on the way there I was just like going those pills, going, God, this is the last bit of whatever. And yeah, I got there, and it was an amazing moment, and whether it was God or not, but I remember walking up those stairs and just going, like, I'm home. I didn't know the place, I didn't know the people, but I knew I was home. It was incredible. And yeah, then I met Annie, and she was the first person that I could see that she was alive, and she had light in her eyes, and she just, I looked at her and I was like, wow, I want what you have. And we started to talk, and we could relate, we could relate. And for the first time in my life, like I was like, somebody understands me. I was like, where have you been all my life? Because I honestly thought that I was the only person who thought like I thought, So I met her, and I then started my detox, which was about 3 weeks. It was the most horrific 3 weeks of my life. I think that kept me clean for a long time, and like I don't ever want to experience that ever again. I literally didn't sleep for weeks, and that I was vomiting, I was pooing, I had a headache for 3 weeks. I shook so badly, like Michael Jackson had just died. Okay, so someone said to me, Carmen, Michael Jackson will never be dead while you're around, because I had the moves, you know what I mean? I was sitting group, like just shaking, and sweating, and I'd run out because I have to poo, and it's just, and I was, and I think what happened to me was that was the first sign that I had to go, like, I'm really damaged physically from this, because I was in so much denial about how sick I was. I weighed, I think, 41 kgs. My hip bones were sticking out. I was sunken in my face, and I really thought like I looked like a supermodel, because the skinnier you are, the better you look. And I was just so sick. And my detox was about 3 weeks, and I think what I was the most grateful for is that my obsession to use went very quickly. I think in the first month it was gone, and I couldn't believe it. And then I started to work on the steps, and I was given this step working guide, and I thought, oh God, another book, because I tried church, I tried self-help books, I read that The Secret, and I tried church and everything. But at the end of the day, I think I was just desperate, and I was like, I saw what people at the treatment center had, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to do what they tell me to do, And I started to work the steps, and I think for me, like everybody has their favorite step or whatever, I think for me, step 1 and step 6 were the most powerful steps for me, because step 1 broke that denial, and it made me realize who I really am. Like for the first time in my life, I was like, yay, I'm actually just alcoholic, because I could see it in my step 1. It was very, very evident, and there was such a huge relief for me. Like, I'm not mad, I'm not whatever, I'm just alcoholic, and there's a solution for me. And then step 6 and 7 is obviously about the behavior stuff, which again for me was like, yay, because then it's only me that needs to change. I don't have to blame anybody else. I don't have to be a victim. It was kind of like those 2 steps was finally like such a huge relief for me. So yeah, I got given the step working guide, and it took me 3 months to finish the steps. And yeah, the steps are tools that I have today, and I often say, like, I don't know how normal people live without steps, but I suppose I had to be driven to do the steps, I had to be desperate, but they are a lifesaver. And because, yeah, I'm happy today, I don't sit in recovery going, I really want to use or drink, but I can't, that's not the case, and it's because of the steps. The steps gave me freedom and tools on how to live my life, and gave me that foundation. And the other thing too was when I learned about alcoholism, and I learned who I am, and I learned that I'm alcoholic, and everything in my life made sense. And I think what it gave me is it gave me an identity. I'm no longer confused about who I am or why I am like I am. I'm like, I'm alcoholic, and it's such a, I don't know, it's such a relief. So I was in treatment for 6 months, and which kind of showed me it was not about the drugs and the alcohol, because after 3 months of treatment, it was my 10th wedding anniversary. Okay, so my husband and I decided we're going to renew our wedding vows in treatment. Okay. So, and I don't even love this man, I never have. Okay, so our people please to the extreme. Okay, my first weekend out is 120 people, and I'm getting remarried, and everybody at the treatment center is going, Carmen, like, this is not okay. And I'm showing Annie my dress, and I'm like, I'm getting really annoyed because she's not interested in my dress, Meantime, she's going, you're mad. Anyway, so, and then a month later, I was at a divorce lawyer, so because I realized that I had that moment of clarity where I knew I could not go back to my husband. I didn't love him. It was purely my decision, and but I knew it was the right decision. And he came up to treatment, and I had to, for the first time in my life, be honest with somebody at the expense of hurting somebody else. We're very good friends today, which I'm very, very grateful for. I started divorce proceedings, and I also then had to deal with my abuse. And when I'd finished the steps, I did a lengthy assignment, which took me quite a long time in terms of looking at that stuff and being able to write about it. And I did a step 5 with Keith, which I will never forget. That day is still very vivid in my mind in terms of, like, he was the first person that I shared it with, and that was no longer a secret. And I felt so free when I walked out of that room with him. I felt amazing, you know. But I still had resentment, and I still wanted revenge. I must be honest, I had not got to that stage of forgiving. So I left treatment after 6 months, and had the foundation, had the tools, but now I had no home, I had no husband, I had no finances. What do they say? No Tracy Chapman, all of that stuff. But I actually remember Don saying to me, with responsibility comes freedom, and with freedom comes responsibility, you know. And I had a sense of, like, I'm excited, you know. I've got the tools, and I'm looking forward to my new life. And it was suggested I do 90 meetings in 90 days. I did 102 meetings in 90 days, and I needed every one of those meetings, because I was coming out, like, everything was new, you know. Like, driving was a new experience, going to the bank was a new experience. I remember going home and fetching my stuff, and I said to my husband, like, did you redecorate the house? He's like, no, it's still the same. Because I'm clean, like, everything looks new, you know. Crazy. And so everything was a new experience to me. So life for me was very overwhelming, and my withdrawals, to be honest with you, went on for almost a year. A lot of anxiety, a lot of sleepless nights and not sleeping, and ups and downs with moods, and I just had to get through it. But those meetings helped. I started sponsoring ladies from very early on, which has just been one of the highlights of my recovery. Sponsoring people is a privilege. It humbles me. I look at some of what some of my sponsees go through, and I'm blown away. And it's that relationship that you build with them with time. And I got involved in service. I also met my current sponsor in treatment. He wasn't in treatment with me, just to clear that. He was working at the time at the treatment center, and there was an instant connection. I trusted him. We had similar experiences, and I asked him to sponsor me. And I have a guy, he's gay, so it is allowed. He's been sponsoring me for the whole time, and for me, it's become more than a sponsor. He's actually a soulmate. You know, there's still that level of respect in terms of he's my sponsor, but he's my soulmate. It's an incredible relationship. But I suppose I've also had to work on it. I've contacted him every single day of my recovery, you know, and some people think it's a bit extreme, but it works for me, you know. It just does. It works for me. So then what happened is I started to volunteer at the treatment center. I moved to Scottsboro and started to kind of get a life in terms of being independent as a woman, paying my own bills, paying my own car, paying my own medical aid, and living on my own, which was actually awesome. I've enjoyed it more than I thought. I started to volunteer at the treatment center, and there was something that happened in terms of a huge shift in my recovery. So when I was there, this man came into treatment who was a pedophile, and he was very open to what he had done, but he was alcoholic, and he needed help. And Don asked me to share the one day, and I said to him, but I can't share that experience because I got a pedophile sitting in the room. You know, I was quite scared. And Don said, you have to share it, that's your experience. And so I did. I shared it, and I remember him walking out of the room, and my self-obsession kicks in, going, oh my God, it's me, you know. But it was something that I'd said, and what ended up happening is him and I ended up working together. It was incredible. He did a step 5 with me. But the beautiful thing about doing the steps was that I never sat in any judgments. I wasn't angry with him. I just had to share with him how it affected me. Because he'd been abusing his granddaughter, and his granddaughter came up to the treatment center, And I was the first person that she shared with what had happened, you know, and it's just, and in all of that happened is I could let go, I could forgive, you know, and him and I actually stayed in contact for quite a long time. So it just showed me that yeah, God steps in when I'm willing and I'm open to that stuff. And I then got into a dishonest relationship at like 9 months clean, which was insane. I had consequences as a result. So continued working at the treatment center for about, I think, 4 years, and trained as a counselor. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. Working there it was hugely powerful. I made a second family. The people that work there are still my family today. They're not my blood family, but they are my family. And you know, working there, sponsoring women, learning how to deal with another alcoholic. So I did that for about 4 years, stayed single. I actually chose to stay single. I didn't want to get into a relationship because I needed to sort myself out, and it was the best thing I've ever done. And then in the last year that I was there, what started to happen is I was not sharing about what was going on for me, in terms of I was feeling stressed. I wasn't sharing that I didn't want to work there anymore. It was nothing to do with the treatment center, but it was just maybe the end of the road for me. I wasn't sharing honestly with my sponsor, and yeah, really being dishonest and telling him what I thought he wanted to hear. You know, so again, the masks come up, and yeah. And what happened is I started to get anxiety, which is how my disease manifests physically. I started to get anxiety. I started to get huge headaches because now I'm obviously being dishonest and I'm keeping secrets. And the anxiety started to get really, really bad where I couldn't leave. I couldn't get up and go to work. So there was obviously a lot of concerns from colleagues of mine. And yeah, and he said to me one day, Carmen, I think you need to come back into treatment. I said, no ways I'm coming into treatment here where I work. Are you mad? You know, I'll try the steps on the outside and I'll be okay. And I got a lot of support. You know, I was taken off counseling and I was given really menial tasks which I couldn't even deal with because I was in my disease. You know, I was not okay. And anyway, so what happened is the one day I went to Scottsboro Mall, had such bad anxiety that I got home and I phoned Andre, my sponsor, and he was overseas, and I said to him, I can't do this. I'm actually going to pick up. You know, I was at that crossroad where, like, all the knowledge in my head and all the working at the treatment center for a number of years was there, but I knew I was either going to end up in a bottle store or a pharmacy without actually having any control. You know, and I panicked, and I phoned him, and he said to me, get in your car, go up to the treatment center, and ask Keith if you can come into treatment. And I just got in my car and I went because I knew this is it. I got to do this. And obviously I had huge support. Yeah, I went into treatment. And on the way there, I was driving thinking, oh my God, what have I done? Because I knew what was coming. You know what I mean? I knew what was coming. But I knew I have to do it. I don't have an option. You know. And so yeah, I got there, and. So bear in mind, there was, I think, maybe 2 or 3 days shift from me being a counselor to now me being a patient. Okay, so my colleagues really didn't have any time to think about how to deal with me. So I got there, and one of the guys who works in the office said to me, okay, if you got your stuff, we need to do your admission, and we're going to give you a buddy. I'm like, oh, whatever, give me a buddy. Like, show me around the treatment center, you know, show me the rules, like... And this poor girl, but you know what, I was so beaten. I was like, whatever, you know what I mean, like, just show me. And I remember her saying to me, Carmen, I'm so embarrassed, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, let me show you around. But anyway, so, and then, like, all the things started to come that I'd forgotten about. I was like, oh my God, now I've got to share a room with 4 women who snore, and I was like, oh my God. And the duties which I'd forgotten about, and the step work, and I was like, oh my God, I've made the wrong decision. But I knew in my heart I hadn't, you know, but those things kept coming. And anyway, so, yeah, and I think for me, like, honestly, like the second time I went back in clean, because I was, I think, 4.5 years clean at the time, was, for me, that was rock bottom for me of note. It was absolutely, I was beaten, I was done. I was like willing to do anything. And it's kind of like where my recovery shifted. That's the last 4 years have been real recovery for me in terms of like, I don't know, it's that unpeeling of the onion, you know. So yeah, Caleb, do you don't mind me using your name? No, tough. Caleb sponsored me, and yeah, it was an incredible journey, I think, because like we'd been friends because we'd worked together, but there was a different level of intimacy when he sponsored me, and I did my step 1, and in my step 1 I did a step 4. I was like, you know what, I'm so over it, like I'm just going to put it all out there. And so 2 things came up. The one was that I wear makeup, okay, because if I look okay on the outside, then I'm okay on the inside, and it's a huge mask for me, and that's been from childhood. You know, if I don't want you to see who I really am, and I pretend everything's okay. So I put that in my step work. And the other thing was, yeah, this is really embarrassing, but I'm just putting it out there, and I'm hoping this is not being recorded. But I've always had a thing about, like, I don't have these things, okay? So I used to put padding in there, but like massive padding, you know, so that again, I can walk around looking like I have those things, you know. And it's all dishonest, and it's all a mask. And I remember going, I have to tell Caleb this, but I really don't want to, you know. Because he's probably been thinking, Carmen's really got good assets, you know. Anyway, I was just like, whatever, I'm so over it. So I put it in there. So he called me in after my step 1, and he said, okay, Carms, do you really want to get better? I said, I do, I'm over it, you know. And he said, okay, you go upstairs, you take off all your makeup. You do not wear makeup for the time that you're here, which was going to be 3 months. And he said, and you take that stuff out your bra. I was like, okay. And I went upstairs, and I got on my knees, and I said, God, please, just get me through this. I was terrified. And I remember walking down those stairs thinking, like, I am so naked right now. I had clothes on, but I was naked. I was like, and the funny thing is, a lot of people didn't even notice. You know what I mean? It was like all in my head. Like, I'm like, you know, some people did notice, and we're probably going, that's why you wear makeup. But and I think that was the kind of the start of me, like, just being real. You know, I had to go to all the meetings. I had to go to Durban meeting. I had to face people that I'd been counseling. So I was in treatment with people that I'd been counseling, you know, and for me I felt humiliated. There was a conspiracy theory going on that I was a spy from the office. I mean, I was like, I'm not going to go to these lengths to be a spy, you know. So yeah, I was in treatment there for 3 months, and like I said, it honestly shifted my recovery, and I really knew who my real friends were, you know, and people in the rooms and people at work at the treatment center were like just incredible. And so I left treatments, and when I left after 3 months, it was like the first time I left. I had anxiety again. Life was overwhelming, and I'm like 4.5 years clean. But what I realized is that from working the steps again clean, something had changed in me, because I'm different and I feel different, which showed me again the steps work, you know. And I had to start working again, and I also didn't have a job. I moved in with an aunt and uncle of mine who have been just incredible. And yeah, I started to volunteer because again, I couldn't work a full day. I just was just overwhelmed, and I then got a job I started at a job where, and this is the other thing where I know God just works, you know, if I just do the next right thing, is that at one stage I had to go to the bank and say to them, I can't pay my car, I can't pay my loans. I had something like 200 Rand in my bank account, but I just kept looking for work, and a couple of days later, I had 2 job offers, you know what I mean, which I know, it always works out. And I ended up working for 2 years for a company that I worked for, about 18 years ago, where I was just really not okay, and I obviously made amends, and a lot of stuff changed there. And in that time, when I left treatment the second time, I wanted to get myself physically healthy again, and I started running. Well, I started walking first, because I was so damn unfit, and I started to run, and I started to develop a passion for running, and I joined a running club. And 2 things happened when I started running. Is I met a guy in 5 years sober, I met him through running, and he's a triathlete, so physically he's got everything and he's gorgeous, but absolutely no personality, not spiritual, because for me, somebody that I want to spend my life with, there has to be God in our relationship. It doesn't matter what God, but God needs to be the core of our relationship, and there wasn't that. But the one thing he did give me is he gave me my first really good sexual experience at the age of 41, whatever, and it's funny to some people, but like for me it was huge, because for the first time, like, I understood what everybody raves about. For me it was like I felt safe, and I enjoyed it, and it was good. So I no longer have a fear of sex. And the other thing that happened is I set myself a goal to run and to do an ultra marathon within a year of running, and I did 2 oceans in 20. Oh God, I forget all the years, but it was within a year of starting to run. I did 2 oceans, and for me it was a lot about the consistency, because before coming into treatment, I started something and could never finish anything, So it was about 4 months of training, 6 days a week, no matter what the weather's like, no matter how I'm feeling. It's about getting up and running and training, and it was about finishing. I remember when I finished, I cried, because I'd set myself a goal, and I'd achieved it, and it was huge for me. And I think for me, it's just been about finding a passion for something that I love, and I still do run, and I still do swim, or I swim. But then what happened is, so now, in that time, I kept thinking, like, I want to, because alcoholism and addiction is my passion, and I wanted to get back in the field, and I kept thinking, I want to start helping people that are not necessarily alcoholics, like families and people that are out there suffering, who don't have an understanding of what we are like. There's just so much stigma and so much misunderstanding, and people just stay sick as a result of it. And so I wanted to start to help families and do my own thing. And as life goes on, the fear of financial insecurity and procrastinating, and I'll do it whenever, I'll do it next year. And God again stepped in, and I was coming back from a friend's 50th birthday party, and I had a head-on collision where a guy hit me head-on, and he's paralyzed today. And how I came out of that car alive, like it was definitely God. But in that moment, I knew that when I realized, like, I was still alive. I said to myself, this accident has happened for a reason. There's always a reason why that happens. And it was about 2 or 3 days after that I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to do this. I need to do what I want to do. This is my passion, and this is what I want to do. And I chatted to Caleb and my sponsor, and I started to put material together. And for the next year, I did family counseling and family workshops on the side. But it started to get a bit much, because obviously trying to do 2 jobs and recovery and everything else. And I went to go visit Don. I often visit Don when I'm down here, and we were in his lounge, and he said to me, you do know you need to do this full time? And I said to him, yeah, but, and he goes, what but? I said, yeah, but what about my bills, Don? He says, where's God in all of this, Carmen? He says, you know what you've got to do? You've got to practice what you preach. And he said, okay, so your only worry is your bills. I'm like, yes, that's my worry, is my bills. You're going to pay my bills. So I said to him, okay, what I'll do is I will look for the signs in the next few days. And I said, if the signs come, I will resign and I'll go on my own. And the signs came. I haven't got time to go into all of the details, but the signs came, and I spoke to my sponsor, and we'd been thinking about it for a long time, and things just came together. I had managed to get 3 months' salary in the bank. Caleb organized me a laptop. Everything came together, and I had 3 months' salary in the bank, and I thought, this is it. I'm doing it. I resigned. And so that was I resigned at the end of January last year, so it's almost a year that I've been on my own, and it has been the most incredible year in terms of, like, I'm doing what I love. There has been so many doors open, so much growth. I've had so much support from friends. Like, I pick up the phone whenever I want to and I go, please can you help me with this, please can you help me with that. But I think what's been the most incredible thing for me is that every single month there is fear. Okay, every month, and then I got offered partnership from a guy in Joburg who's also been sober for about 9 years, went through the same program as me, and we went into partnership just about 2 months after I went on my own. And most months we get to like the first of the month and we've paid our bills and there's nothing left for the rest of the month. And we go, shit. But we get through. We get through every single month, because I think what's important is that we both get up every day, get off our bums, and we go and work and we do the best we can. You know, there's days where I want to put my head under that pillow and I want to hide because I'm so terrified. You know, and God just steps in. Things have happened this year which, yeah, I'm always taking care of. And I think it's just beautiful that I'm doing what I love. And I always like to say that I have not got to where I am today on my own. I have had the most incredible people along the way supporting me and being there for me. And yeah, I suppose my mom keeps saying to me, Carmen, I wish you could just meet somebody, you know. I think I said at my last share, like, I think she'd be happy if I was dating a woman, like, just to be saying, like, Carmen's dating, you know, like, or like whatever, you know. But like, it's just, I think for me, like yeah, I would like to meet somebody, but I'm also at that really nice place where I'm not desperate, and God's got a plan. I really believe that, and whoever comes into my life as a partner, it'll be right, and it'll be the right time, and it'll just, I mean, I have, in the last year, I have made a really, really good guy friend, and I think he's taught me a lot about how to be with a man, and how to just to be myself and make myself vulnerable, and maybe that's the start that I need, you know. But it's also, my focus is my business, and I think I'm so busy, and that's really maybe what my goal needs to be. But just to finish, I suppose what recovery has given me, it's given me, like I said earlier, you know, I've got an identity today. I'm no longer confused about who I am. I don't have that, like, who am I? And I've got peace and serenity. I have a relationship with my dad today. My dad and I are friends, you know. And that only really happened maybe 3 years ago, where him and I really started to have a real relationship. I've made amends to all my family. I do have amends still to make to my ex-husband, but he's not willing to see me yet, so I've got to wait. And I've got amends to make to his family. But yeah, I'm happy today, you know. And I think for me as well, what I found is, like, I have balance today. Balance in terms of, like, even my eating stuff, I have balance today. I eat healthy. I don't obsess that much about, you know, what am I eating and counting calories. I'm pretty okay with how I am physically. There's still work to be done there, but it's not as bad. I have a balance in terms of exercising and friends. I've got a lot of friends who are not in recovery, who drink, you know, but they drink, they're not alcoholic. And for me, that is important. I need to have that balance, you know, normal people. And yeah, so that's been good for me. And the other big thing, I think, just to finish, is that what I found in recovery is, it sounds weird, but like, I could never really connect with people, and I could never really connect with animals, you know. Sounds terrible, but I have that connection today, you know, that real connection with people. And I got my first dog in recovery. And for me, animals have become like a major thing. And again, that's just God, and it's the steps, because I was so far removed from anybody and anything, you know. And so yeah, I'm going to kind of end there. I don't know if I've gone over time, but I've got such a thumping headache now. So yeah, I just really very, very grateful for you guys, because you showed me the way, and it's just, I have an amazing life today. You know, certainly not what I would have said I wanted, but it's absolutely been mind blowing. So yeah, and every year that goes by, I go, can't get better than this year, but it does. Because I just do those simple things every day, you know, that I was taught in treatment. And that's all I have to do, and then it keeps coming. So yeah, thank you for letting me share.